Hi, it's Kathy from Raven Vintage. Welcome back to my craft room. I missed you guys. Come on in, grab a seat. We are going to make a journal from start to finish from scratch. And this journal is going to be, this will be part of a series. How long? I don't know. We'll see how long. But I will be sharing the process with you as I go, showing you how I'm making this journal. Now, this journal has been inspired by two incredibly talented creators who I admire so much. The first is Michelle Cox from Michelle Cox Creative. Michelle invited me to collaborate with her a little while ago on her eco-dyed bundles of vintage textiles. So I have in front of me, I did an unboxing the other day, so I won't go through the whole thing, but these are absolutely gorgeous. Now I do want to tell you, now this is what, November 6th I'm filming of 2025. Michelle's going to be stepping back from doing as much of the eco-dyeing and the releases in her Etsy shop. So she has a huge drop right now in her Etsy shop. She has free shipping on for the US, and she's on to new adventures. So I wish her well in that. But if you want to, they're going pretty quickly. I know she had a huge lot in there. So if you want to grab one, I suggest you go to her Etsy shop now. I'm going to link her shop below. But this is the kit I have. They're beautiful blush pinks and mossy greens, and of course some beautiful naturals. So I knew that there was a kit that I was working on at the time we first spoke about this collaboration, which is a brand new kit in my Etsy shop. I just dropped everything. Oh, I just dropped these, sorry. So this is my new kit called Sweet Sage. And I know a lot of these papers are going, and ephemera are going to go quite lovely with this journal. However, the greens in the Sweet Sage kit are like of a cool tone, the sage color, where the greens in the textile bundle are more of a mossy green color. So I then thought, okay, well, I'm going to need to add a few other colors. So I've got my distressed florals from my basic journal pages kits. And then I also printed a couple of my wallpaper from my wallpaper kits. So we'll get into that a little bit later. So I've curated, I like to curate all my supplies first. So this is what I have so far. So the beautifully talented Michelle Cox from Michelle Cox Creative. Check out her Etsy shop if you want to get some of these beautiful eco-dyed textiles. And the second person who inspired me for this journal is Sweet Donna from Twisted Paper Studio. So when I decided to create a textile cover journal, like I said, I instantly thought of Donna when it came to doing a fabric cover or a textile cover. In my opinion, she's the queen of curating textiles for covers. I followed her for a really, like, how beautiful are these going to go with those fabrics. I followed her for a very long time from my personal YouTube account. I just subscribed to her YouTube channel from my Raven Vintage channel as well, so that I can tag her below. So if you're not already following her, you absolutely should. Her work is stunning and she's sweet as pie. So we are going to follow Donna's process of making a fabric journal cover. We're going to use Raven Vintage printables, and we're going to use Michelle Cox Creative textiles. So Donna's process, my papers, and Michelle's textiles. And I have a list of a whole bunch of different ideas of things we can do with fabrics. So this will be, in fact, a series of videos for this journal. This first video is going to be about the cover. So let's see how far we get. I've also printed some of these on newsprint, regular copy paper, and then I also printed a few on cardstock as well. We'll get to that in a bit. So I actually had to go out and buy some cereal. I don't usually buy cereal, and I don't have a lot of boxed food in my house. So I found a cereal that I remember that I like. So this is a small box. And what I did, actually, I looked at crackers too, but I took a piece of paper. So this is 8.5 by 11. And not this one in particular, another one, but this is the size of paper I use. So I had to find something that was big enough to fit the height and the width of the size of journal I want to make. So typically, you know me, I take my 8.5 by 11 and I fold them in half, and those create my signatures. So here's a tip for you. When you go out to run your errands, or you're going thrifting and you make your grocery list, put it on a piece of paper like this. This is an 8.5 by 11. So when I go to the thrift store, for example, looking for books to do altered books, I take this with me, pull it out of my purse, and then I just hold it up quickly to make sure it's going to be the right size for my journals. So that's one thing I do. So I took this with me to the grocery store to make sure I could find, and a lot of boxes are shorter or they're more narrow. So I had to get a cereal box. And then another thing I do, do you see these lines here? So that is the length of a box for my tag workshop I have coming up. The width of the box, and then this extra line here to create this section, that's the thickness or the height of the box. So it's this long by this wide by that tall. So yeah, and then this just goes in my purse. So I always have a piece of paper with me so I can find what I need instead of a measuring tape or a ruler. So just a quick, so I will go along, literally along the book aisle, holding my paper up like this for height for my journal books. Okay, so Donna likes to use cereal boxes, so I'm going to follow along with what she does. So I'm going to trim this down to size. And I think this will, of course, that will be the spine of the journal and front and back cover. So, or vice versa once I get it covered. So let me get this cut down to size first. I'm going to trim these blocks off, and then I will, or the edges. So I'm going to cut all of these flaps off all the way around, but I'm going to keep this, and this as one big piece. Get rid of those. Now, of course, you can keep this for making tags and such. You can also keep these little tabs right here and here. You can keep those as cluster tabs or page tabs. Those won't be going far. Now, when I do go to sew, I do not use my sewing machine very often at all. So when I do go to sew, my fabrics on here, I will do that off camera because you don't want to see me cry. It's just not something I do very often. Okay, so let's get a good straight edge here first. Let's start with that. I might take a couple passes, but, and then I want 8.5. Ooh, just long enough. Maybe I'll go just a little bigger. There we go. There we go. And then I want my pages to be just a little more than 5.5. Maybe I'll go 1/8 of an inch more. Again, keep these for, that's like a perfect bookmark size or a belly band. So hang on to those. And again, from the edge of the spine, I'm just going to go a little bit bigger. Like that. Okay, so I am down to this. This will be my journal using a cereal box. Now, if you are going to use a food box, I think it's best to use something that has some sort of a liner in it so that we don't have food like a dry pasta box, for example, food that touches the cardboard. I think we need something that has a liner to separate that's a separation between the food and the box board. I just think that's probably for the best. Okay, and then we need to cover our this side, the shiny side, with some paper. And I think height-wise, without having this seam on the back, I'm going to use this front. So let me first cut this bottom off. So this is just a regular grocery bag size. And then I'll cut open one of the gussets. I hope the lighting's okay. This is what I'm dealing with. This is daylight with in Canada. This is daylight. This is what we get stuck with in November. So okay. So one enough that folds over. Just want to not use that section, so I'm going to come over here. So let me just make this a little smaller. Easier to work with, so keep that aside. That's okay. You can glue that. Okay, so this is what Donna does. She glues, I might not be doing exactly like she does, but she glues her box board, adds her paper, and then cuts. I'll show you how she does the cuts. Now keep in mind this will be sewn as well, so this is just a base. Have to be super amazing. Turn this over like that. Okay, so now we have this nice side, and then the side obviously with the, let's get rid of this crease here and smooth that down a bit. There, like it never happened. Get rid of some of these bumps, hair bubbles. Yeah, I love watching Donna's reels and videos, watching her curate her fabrics and pull them all together. Okay, so then you'll see Donna cut her corners off, and of course she leaves probably, I'm sure she leaves like just a little, this is way too wide. Let me just cut this down first so that it's pretty even all the way around. Okay. So she cuts her corners off, and I'm sure she leaves just a little bit there. Those. And then she cuts a little triangle of where the spine's going to be. So we're going to do like this. And here. So just pointing towards the seam of the spine. That. And then she glues these down. And I'm sure she's done this 1,000 times. She can probably do this in her sleep. That flap over. Oops. Okay, we'll do the other side, same thing. I'm using a Yoo-hoo stick. And then I will also be using Fabri-Tac, and I'll be using art glitter glue throughout this project. And then the sides. Just push your corners in. Don't need to worry about a perfectly tidy corner at this point because these will be covered and the fabric will overhang, I believe, a little bit too. Here we go. So that is the start of our journal cover. Okay, and then this will be the inside of the journal, of course. And then we're going to collage fabric on the back. That's a seam of the bag, so nothing I can do about that. Okay. Okay, so I have all these beautiful fabrics here. And I think I want to save some of the really, I'm just going to separate these into some categories here. So like this crocheted types, some very dainty stuff, or anything that has like a hole. I'll put over here. This kind of fits in both categories, but, and then I have linens. This is, I think, my favorite piece out of the whole thing. It's almost sheer. It is such a beautiful color. So I'm just going to set that one aside because I quite like that. This is a little bit thicker. I'm going to set that here. Again, crocheted bits. More crocheted. Again, this is super thin. That with this, got all the strings here. This has holes. This is more of a linen type cotton, crocheted. This is that thin, almost like muslin. I'm not even sure what it is. There's some more linen, and this is the tissue paper, which we'll use, and of course the ribbon, which we'll use at some point. Okay. So she starts with like blocks, and eventually keep in mind too that on the front cover we're going to probably add some sort of a focal point, like there'll be some sort of a journal topper situation going on too. So keep that in mind when you are making your bits. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut these into some different sizes. The darkest one I'm going to make the smallest. I don't know how well these will tear. We'll try. Some of them with a torn edge, and I want some of them with a flat edge because they will be overlapped and glued down and sewn down. So I'll do those 4, and I have to do 2 larger bits. That I don't know if this will tear or not. That. to see if I can get that right off. Yep. So off that napkin or whatever, I'm just going to keep that aside. So I have some different sizes to work with. I think I'll do a couple different sizes of this as well. And then this beautiful piece here. Okay. So let's just start making a collage using these pieces. I think I would really like this at the top corner. I think that would be really pretty. And then she just starts collaging and layering like this. Alternate. We don't want it to look too matchy. Green. Put this pink over here. That. No, I think I'm just going to be pleased with that. Okay. This is my idea. All right, so now let's just use a little bit of Fabri-Tac, and keeping in mind this, all the edges are going to be sewn, so we're going to not be too extra with the glue. Get these sections covered. I just want to make sure I've got a little bit of overlap on the cover itself, because then I can trim off edges if need be. Like I said, you're learning with me, so that. A little bit of an overlap. I might be using too much glue. I'm not sure. This over top. Okay. Now this is going to show through a little bit of the craft bag, and I'm quite okay with that. Might get covered up anyway with, depending on what we put on our as our journal topper, right? This reminds me of years ago when I worked at the Municipal Art Center. And what happened was they were short-staffed. A position was open. The curator position was open. The assistant curator was off on leave for a while. They had, and it's really only a staff of 2 people. So when both staff are off, they had 0 people, which means they had no one there available to work to cover, to keep the gallery open. So I was coming back to work, waiting for a suitable position, because I had broken my hand. So I had some, at that time, I was still retraining, you know, splaying this way to be able to type. And also I had weight, like restrictions on what I could lift. So they were looking for a suitable accommodation for me to return to work. And then this opened up, or they had this situation at the art center. So I was contacted by Human Resources, and they said, how do you feel about working at the art center? I'm like, I'm not an art person. But anyway, that's how I landed at the art center. It's like, some people, how did you get a job at the art center? You're not a, that's how, that is how, because, there was nobody there to work and they needed someone to work. So that's how I ended up there. Now, I think I'll do that this way. That's kind of pretty, isn't it? So of course I knew all the municipal programs, like, because it would be the same computer systems, the same till, the same type of point of sale system, all of those things, the accounting program, everything. So I already knew that from my previous work experience. So that part, and I had customer service skills. So they're like, basically, we just need you to open the doors and greet people and let them come in and look at the art. Great. I can do that. And if they buy something, you can cash them out and you can do the reports and stuff. Okay. Yep. Yeah, count me in. I can do that. So anyway, I ended up, like I said, working at the art center without any art experience. I'm thinking, well, my sister's an artist, so I can at least, you know, carry on a conversation with people and that sort of thing. And I can give tours. And of course, now as I'm laying these down, it looks pretty blocked. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it's not really collaged. But like I said, we're going to have some sort of a journal topper at some point, so I'm not really concerned about it. Like, it looks too much like a checkerboard, but I'm actually okay with that. Okay, those colors are so pretty, and the fabrics are just so beautiful. So beautiful. Oh, and here I'm gluing down, and we don't need to worry about that because we'll be sewing. Okay. Isn't that pretty? And who knows what we're going to do with the spine. But right now, so far so good, right? Very pretty. Okay. Okay. And then what Donna does is she does strips of like lace and such that match to go on top. So remember, I grabbed these from the, just, she doesn't do the whole thing, but here and there. Like something like that. Kind of cute. Like across here. Overhang a little bit because, well, I'm going to cut it later because I'm going to sew it first. Where's the spine? That's right at the spine, so I'm good with that one. So of course, and then there was like giving the tours of the heritage building itself. Beautiful home that was part of the history of the town. And if you're interested in looking up this place, it's called now it's called the Linwood Art Center. It's now run by volunteers again. The county still owns the building and the art collection and such. But at one point it was privately owned, and then they ran out of money and steam and volunteers and such. And then it was, they asked the county to take it over, which they did. And then at one point, the county was cutting their budgets like they, you know, happens in this day and age. And that's a soft service. So that was cut from the budget. And it went back to, the county still owns the asset, but the it's run by volunteers again. Quite simply put. And it's now, so it was the Linwood Art Center, then it was called the Norfolk Art Center, then it was called the, now it's back to the Linwood Art Center again. Anyway, while I was there, the exhibits ran out, and I have a point to this whole story. I'm getting there. So, you know, it came time for whoever to come in and take their exhibit down and start again, and which meant, and there were contracts of artists who had contracts to exhibit. So it's like, well, everybody was so busy with all these changes and such going on, and I didn't have a lot of help, but I'm like, you know what, I can figure this out. I'm sure I can figure it out. So what I did was I just looked at I figured it out. I looked at previous contracts, all the different documents that needed to be signed, all the things. And, you know, there are checklists in place or whatever. Was this done? Was that done? Was this person contacted? You know, payments, all of that. And just so by looking in the files and figuring out what was done in the past, I was kind of able to just figure it out. And sure enough, the next artist was able to come in and set up their exhibit. And then we had, you know, we planned the opening and the food and all the things and invited all the people. And next thing you know, I'm basically doing art gallery assistant duties in addition to my customer service duties, because it was figure outable. Okay, let's put it that way. And there, I kind of like that. I also want to do something down here, but I think maybe I don't want to do too much. Maybe I'll do that. So, and then it's like I'm still working there and I'm by myself. So I covered all the hours, which meant I was also working. We're closed on Mondays, but I was also working Saturdays. It's a lot of work. It was exhausting, but I also fell in love with the home, big, beautiful home as designation. And there, I like that. So the whole point of my story was, we had a few different art exhibits, a few different artists, and I saw a huge difference between, there was this one artist that came in with her mixed media art. Another one was more like a charcoal artist. There are different galleries too, and so they could have multiple exhibits going on. But at one point we had a blank spot, so there was like no art coming in. The smaller galleries were full, but the larger gallery, the downstairs, was empty. And then, so the director of Heritage and Culture, she talked to some of the local artists and to see if we could drum something up. And because, like I said, there was no curator there at the time, so there was no one there to plan the work. Anyway, so between her and I and some of the local artists, we put on an exhibit that was a fiber arts exhibit. So there is a local, not in our county, but an adjacent county, although a lot of the members were from our county. So basically local artists. They were all fiber artists. So they had a guild, I think they still do, or a group of some sort of ladies that get together and do all their different things. And from that, we created an exhibit. So I forget how many members there were that had exhibited. There's quite a few. Let's say 20. I forget. 16, 20, something like that. And they all brought in their works and we displayed them. We ended up doing the upper main gallery, the stairwell, and the lower gallery, basically more than half of the art center with their work. We had people come in and do demonstrations. So we had felting, there was everything from needlework to, there's one gal that would take photographs and then she would stitch that photograph, and it looked like a painting, but when you got up close, you realized it was actually embroidery thread. Just amazing, amazing. There was mixed media. Of course, there's crocheting, knitting, and all the things, but not the basic, like, it wasn't an exhibit of, sweaters, sweater sets, and that sort of thing. It was art, hangable art, 3D art, that it was amazing. And it was the best exhibit the entire time I worked there. It was the most well-attended, reattended, meaning if you came to see the exhibit, you loved it so much, you'd come back the next week and bring other people to show it to them. And it was so successful. And these were not hoity-toity artists. These were just regular gals like you and me crafting. They got together with their friends and crafted with fabric. And there was echo dyeing, there was slow stitching, and just amazing work. It was so beautiful. It was so inviting and warm, and it was such a beautiful display of local talent. It was the best exhibit, in my opinion, ever at the Art Center, because there's a lot of measures of success to an exhibit. So it's not just how many pieces were sold, and pieces sold, those that want, some things were not for sale. Oh, there was also, what do you call it with the fabric? Structural, like sculptural. What do you call that? I'll have to think of it. So there's that as well. But yeah, it was amazing, amazing, amazing work. It was just the best experience I had working there. The ladies were wonderful. They were really nice to deal with compared to some of the artists. Yeah, spurred some new friendships. It was just really quite a wonderful exhibit. So yes. Okay, I'm excited. This is the furthest I've ever got with this. So the next step then is for me to sew this. What I'm going to do is, following Donna's lead, I'm going to stitch every block at some point. I'll do the entire edge. I'll go all the way around. I'll do the edge of some sort of seams up the spine for stability, but every block and every piece will get stitched. Okay, I will be back. Wish me luck. We'll see you for that next part of the video. I am back. That was a little bit painful. I didn't cry. But please do not use me as an example, because I am so not proficient with my sewing machine. I need to practice. I'm surprised that I did what I did. I ended up with realizing I was using a very old thread that was breaking, so I changed my thread. I have to figure out the tension on my machine. But anyway, so I did something different, a zigzag kind of stitch around the spine, and I stitched all the way around the outside. I did a spine, like a rectangle there, and then I just did a little bit of stitching here and there. I didn't do every single square, but like, look at my strings here. I clearly need a little bit of a lesson with my machine, so I'll practice that. But this part is done as much as I'm going to do, I guess. Yeah, that was a little frustrating for me. It's just not I don't use it, and I need to learn, and I really want to learn, so I don't want to give up on it just yet. But I had to do it for this video, and I did it. So let's just get rid of all of these extra bits here. I love seeing the sewing elements in people's journals, even on their ephemera, or their pockets, belly bands, that sort of. It's like, look at this mess I got here. I really do. So I really want to learn to use my machine. So this winter, that is on my list of things I want to do. That's on my winter bucket list, let's say. But for now, let's just see. That looks pretty good. I'm going to grab my, one more fabric scissors here. And I would like to leave this little scalloped edge, but anything, that's even fine. That's fine. I'm fine with that. I think it's just right, maybe here I might trim up a bit. For the most part, I think I'm good with the edges. But check your edges and see if you're happy with what you have. Now, I might come back in and glue. Yeah, I think I'll glue that right there. And I'm just going to use my art glitter glue because it has that precision tip. And that'll be enough. And then any of these lifted edges, same thing. I think that's going to be enough with, just for the job it needs to do. A little bit of funniness here. I probably should have sewn that, but I don't know what I'm going to do with the spine just yet, so I'm not super concerned. There. Oh, I folded that back when I sewed it. Oh well. Okay, well, let's just call that charm. We'll just say that that's the charm of the journal. Okay. So there we have the cover done on the outside. Then on the inside, what I'd like to do is fabric down the middle and then 2 pieces of scrapbook paper, or maybe even some of the cardstock that I printed here. One thing you could do at this point that Donna does is you could put your ribbon across here if you were going to use that as your tie, and glue that down into your journal now before we cover up this with fabric and the 2 pieces of paper. I am going to do a my usual closure 2-hole closure at the back like I normally do, so with some eyelets there. So I'm going to not do that right now. Okay, so fabric down the middle and then paper. So let's take a look at our choices here. So that is cardstock, light cardstock. This was kind of what I had in mind. As far as colors go, any one of these I'm happy with. Quite like this one. Be pretty for the inside. Any of them would be pretty for the inside, actually. Yeah. I think I'll go with this one. So this is one of my wallpapers. So, and what I'll do is just simply fold this in half, and I'll cut that. Okay, and then there's the wording. This actually goes this way, I guess. Does it matter? Not really. Okay, so those would be the 2 sides. And then some fabric for the center. Now, I kind of like this for the middle. Although when I'm thinking of stitching, I want to be able to, I don't want any issues with the stitching. So probably this is going to be my best bet here. Yep. Yep, that right there. Okay, so let's see if we can I want to cover the spine and be able to glue this down on both sides. Let's see if this piece is big enough. No, I think I want to go a little wider. I just want to make sure it's covered. Okay, so let's use our fabric tack again. And again, I don't need to be too crazy with the glue because it'll be held down with the two sides. Plus we'll be stitching our signature through it. But I do want it covered top to bottom. Make sure I get the spine and on either side of the spine. Go a little heavier on the sides of the spine because that'll be covered by paper. We won't see that. And then you're making sure you get a good hold. And then we'll trim the edges off. So I'm going to lay this at the top. I like that frayed edge there. It's a nice thin material. Let's center that very well, that's fine. Do I dare try to tear it while it's on there? No. I better not. I'll just cut it a little bit longer and then we can fray it manually. There we go. Okay, and then I think I'll ink my edges a little bit before I glue those down. So size wise, I should be just perfect. Now, as for doing a focal point on the front, we can leave that till later, but we've got the base of the journal done here. And then next video we'll move on to the signatures. And of course, we're going to get into more of the fabric ideas for using textiles in our journals. Okay, so I think I just want to do a little more on the inking. Let's come in a little bit more. I don't want to be shy. Okay, so this is just a very thin cardstock, like maybe in 65, 80 pound, like it's nothing crazy, but it's enough to cover the stitch lines. It's in the fabric, it's perfectly fine. That is pretty. Isn't that pretty? I like these colors very much. Okay, so again, I've got the fabric tack, or I've got my 3-in-1 here. Ugh. Someone asked me, here we can talk about this while I'm waiting for the glue to come down. Someone asked me in another video, why do you use 2 different glues? So what I had done in that video, I had used a glue stick, and then I also used, I think it was the art glitter glue around the edges. And it's because it depends on the project, it depends on the paper. Like book pages, for example, old book pages just soak that glue, like suck that glue right in. And it's just like, oh, is it going to, like, I don't know if it's the fibers that are used or the age of the paper or what it is, but I thought that, well, that's all going to stick to like one side of the paper, not the other, because it's all getting sucked in one side. So I just thought, well, for an extra, instead of coming back later and having to glue my edges down, because I thought, well, I'll just do that right now. So I know you'll see some creators use 2 glues like all the time just to make sure it never comes off, especially when you're selling your journals. So I don't see any harm in using two glues. I've never heard of any two glues that don't like each other. So, and like react badly or anything like that. I've never heard of that. So if you have any information on that you want to share. Oh, push this out to the edge a bit. Just want to make sure I still fold okay and that this isn't going to interfere. I'm going to push it that way a bit. Give that a really good burnish. Now once it's burnished, I guess I can kind of see the line of where the sewing line, but I really don't think it's a problem. I really don't. Get your edges down, pull that glue to the corners, push it to the corners, push it to the edges. Yeah, that's really pretty. Okay, and then this side, same thing. Just come right to the edge. There. Now, I hope Donna, I don't know if Donna will ever watch my video, but if she ever does, I hope I did her justice with her process here. Like I said, she could probably do this in her sleep. But I do want to thank Donna for her inspiration with her videos and her beautiful curated fabric covers. They're just gorgeous. She likes bunnies, and she usually has a bunny on her cover. Okay, and Michelle from Michelle Cox Creative, what do you think? There. And then of course we'll be using more of this fabric bundle throughout the journal, so it'll pull the theme right through. And we're going to be using printables. I'll grab some tea-dyed paper, which I haven't done yet, and some music sheets as well, which are typical things that I add to my journals. Yes, so I think we'll do I'm not sure if we're going to do 3 or 5 signatures, but we'll do a 3-hole pamphlet stitch right through this. I'll do the 2-hole closure at the back. But there, that's video 1 of the series using Michelle's beautiful Echo Dyed Vintage. This is going to be such a pretty journal, I can tell already. I think it's, even with the imperfections and my amateur sewing, it's still beautiful. I think it's just gorgeous. I love it. I love it. And like I said, I don't even know if I'm going to be covering the spine or not. Like I might even be covering it. I don't even know yet. We'll see. There's some really beautiful options here with different, oh, wouldn't that be pretty? With the pink and the green showing through. But then that silly stitching's back there. I don't know. I don't know if I like that or not, but that would be a beautiful wrap around for a spine. Oh, this would be nice too. If we did this on the spine like a wrap, and then this was a pocket on the front of the journal, how pretty would that be? Oh, maybe we'll do that. That just works out just the way this seam is already here. Oh, maybe we'll do that, and then we can put some sort of an insert. Oh yeah, I think maybe we'll do that. We shall see. But we don't need to decide that right now. I think that's really pretty. Oh, that might be the way we go. Oops, that might even be upside down. Nope. What do you think? I could hand stitch this on. We could do, oh, so many things. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I'm not decided yet. I am not decided yet. That's Beautiful. Okay. Well, thank you for hanging out with me today in my craft room. It was good to hang out with you again. I look forward to your comments and your questions. And your questions will help guide me into the next video. Anything you want me to try to answer. Like I said, this is new for me too. So maybe I can also learn from you. So if you have any tips or tricks or anything, also if you have any good sewing videos to watch. For me, it's more about setting up the machine. I don't really want to learn how to sew and make dresses or anything like that. I just really want to use my sewing machine for my journals. That's, to be honest, that's all I really want to use it for. So if you have any suggestions for, if you know of any videos out there for that, please, by all means, let me know in the comments below. But thanks for hanging out with me today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care. Bye.